A question that often comes up in my videos and streams is, what software do you use? This is a pretty common question people ask artists, and I get why. There's a lot of creative software out there, and choosing one to commit to is challenging. One aspect about my work that I don't get to talk much about is that I am a passionate supporter of free and open source software for creative work. I'm sure industry standard software has that label for a reason, but frankly, there are free alternatives out there that can work just as well, with the added benefit of better privacy and not having to pay exorbitant monthly fees. Today, I will show you how I made the intro animation you saw at the beginning of Devlog 2. Although it's such a short clip, there was a lot of steps I had to take before getting to this final result. I'll talk about some of my thoughts and decisions for each step, and also a little bit about what software I used for each. Before I even decided to make the fairy animation, I did my own take of the Zelda 1 title screen as seen on this earlier video. I got very motivated to do it because at the time, I had recently hiked in Red Rock Canyon in Las Vegas, and I thought that the rocky terrain and beautiful colors just made me want to keep climbing and exploring. And since those vibes fit in so well with the first Zelda, that made me want to include this little adventure in this project. In fact, I referenced the mountain formations and colors from my own pictures. The idea for the fairy animation came a few months later after I started working on preparing everything for Devlog 2. I chose to represent the fairies in-game similar to how they are in Ocarina of Time, small balls of light with wings. But I also wanted to explore how the fairies looked up close, so I went on to make a proper character design for them. Designing a fantasy character is always a great time, because it can be very expressive and explore so many different things with them. I had a lot of different influences and inspirations for the fairy designs, but my starting point was their design from A Link to the Past, hence the pink short hair. I had this idea of basing different fairies on different flowers, so I based this one's colors and skirt on this type of tulip. I was also rereading Berserk at the time, so there's a healthy amount of influence from the elves in her design as well. After the fairy's design is set, I now need to decide about what she'll actually be doing, so time for storyboarding. I already had a pretty solid idea of how I wanted the sequence to play out, so storyboarding it was not that complicated. I went for the classic, playful fairy personality, showing curiosity and excitement upon seeing the viewer/player. It was only the matter of deciding how exactly I wanted to have her flying on the screen. The drawings here were very fast and loose, but they did a good job at helping me visualize. For the animatic, I was still drawing very fast and loose, but now with a lot more intent. This stage was for nailing down the fairy's movements and positions in camera, and to get the timing just right. While you watch me draw the animatic, I think now is a good time to talk about the software I'm using. I use Krita to draw and animate. It's a very versatile program that's specifically built for digital drawing, and by turning on the animation timeline and onion skins dockers, you can animate while having access to all of these great brushes and tools. Also, because I've had a few people ask me this before, I use the Pencil 2B brush that comes in David Hevois's DVAD bundle. You can find a link to his website in the description, and then just search in the brushes tag. Now this is the step where the character really comes to life. Starting with a rough pass first, I'm being very careful with where I place my lines, making sure the character feels three-dimensional, but also not forgetting about designing good 2D shapes. Here is where I feel the fairy's design can really shine, as I'm paying a lot of attention on her secondary movements, especially in the hair, ears and antenna for the close-up parts, and then the legs and skirt on the full body parts. I don't have much to talk about the cleanup and coloring process here since they were very straightforward, just paying a lot of attention to keep my lines and shapes consistent all throughout. So now you might think, you're done, right? Now that you have the fairy fully animated and colored, you can just hit export and that's it. Actually, no, there's a major step that I still have left, and that's called compositing. Compositing for animation is when you take the individual elements of an image and put them all together. For example, just the title screen illustration by itself is made up of a background, 2 layers of clouds, the mountains and waterfall in the back, and the mountains in the foreground. If you search for videos about animation compositing here on YouTube, you will most often find tutorials on Adobe After Effects. It is a very powerful compositing software and the one that's most commonly used for it in the broader animation industry. But because we do not follow Adobe in this household, I had to go find something else. Luckily, I already knew just what to use: OpenToonz. From what I understand, OpenToonz has some use in the Japanese animation industry, but it's not quite the most common choice for animation compositing overall. I already had a lot of experience working with OpenToonz because I used it to composite Tides, my graduate short film. I'm not the biggest fan of drawing directly in OpenToonz because I find the drawing tools a bit limited, but to me, this program really shines in its effects and compositing features. If you are more familiar with After Effects, seeing this node-based compositing workspace may feel a bit scary, but once you get the hang of it, you really get to learn just how much potential it has. First, I imported and sorted all the background layers. This is why I separated them like that, so when the camera pans down in the beginning, I can create the illusion of depth out of these 2D drawings. I also tweaked the fairy's animation by messing around with her scale to create a better overall composition, as she looked a bit too large after flying away from the camera. In this step, I also added some effects such as the fairy's glow and some slight color and image adjustments to make the image look a bit prettier. And this is how I put it all together. I tried to give a brief overview of the whole process, but please feel free to ask any specific questions about any step in the comments. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go back to working in the game, and let's just say that I'm testing out some pretty interesting ideas for the layout of the next few rooms, so stay tuned. Bye for now.